Hey guys, welcome back to another Warframe video. In this video I wanted to talk about the augment changes that they recently did in update 25.6, but specifically for this video it's only going to be focusing on the first ability augments, which is Fireball Frenzy, Freeze Force, Smite Infusion, Venom Dose, and Shock Trooper. These are mods that add elemental damage to allies' attacks. And we're going to be starting with Ember first. So as you can see here, I already have it equipped. Fireball Frenzy is 100% heat damage to their attacks for 40 seconds. Now before I had this, right here, this is basically required. This is kind of obsolete. It adds the casting speed, but it's generally obsolete now because of this new changes to this augment, which is kind of silly, kind of sad, but you know, whatever. So with the old one, I got 57% bonus heat damage, and that's with 115% strength. It's not that much. You can boost it obviously with much more, with some, you know, more strength, like this one right here. Now I can get 134%, but see, 268% strength. You saw it was just over 100% bonus heat damage. With this one, when I use it now, before I use it, there's a specific change to this. You can no longer charge her first ability for that bigger fireball, but that's not really an issue. It wasn't that useful. But holding the ability now instead applies the heat damage to everyone. Now it's 115%, and obviously it's with that lower strength build. So first I'm going to change frames real quick just to get rid of that, just because I wanted to show the differences between what Flash Accelerant does and what this new Fireball Frenzy can do. So against this heavy gunner right here, my Prisma Crocata is currently doing 21 damage, and then we use Flash Accelerant. Now we're getting bonus heat damage, and the Accelerant itself is also boosting heat damage. Now we go up to 51, which is pretty decent, but not that great, especially against armor. But if we switch over to Fireball Frenzy now, I'm going to still use Accelerant just like before, but we're going to hold this and gain extra heat damage. Now we're doing 82, which is actually pretty significant, especially against armor. So you can mod your weapons without heat damage. Like if you want a radiation build, for example, just put electricity and then use Ember with this augment, and then you have instant radiation, and you're going to be doing more against alloy, etc. So the next one I want to talk about was Freeze Force, and that's for Frost, and it's exactly the same except it's just cold damage. Now with this they did finally fix the bug where if you cast it on allies, they no longer gain a cold proc aura, which was really fun, but it was about time that bug was fixed because it was added and removed about 5 or 6 times. It was getting kind of silly. Not many people know about it, but I did because I used Frost a lot. Anyways, for this, I've already tested it, so like I said, it fixes that, but it also works for Spectres. So, like, I was worried that it wouldn't work for Spectres because before, actually, these all work for Spectres, by the way, because it's no longer a target ability, so I was worried that it wouldn't apply to allies in missions, but it does, thankfully. So, we're actually going to be testing against the Napalm because cold damage, but first, we're going to see that we do 12 damage on the crit, and then we hold this to get 175% bonus cold, and now we're going up to 54 damage, which is actually pretty significant because the cold damage is only a mild bonus, and the alloy armor of this Napalm is actually very high. Now for Smite Infusion, which is for Oberon, there sorta is a problem with it, and that is, this is kind of my favorite build, and I can't really change anything. I've tried many different missions, I've even tried using different arcanes, but this is basically the build that I'm happy with, and I can't change it. The only thing that I could possibly change is remove this Phoenix Renewal, but this is very helpful. But for the purposes of this video, I will be swapping it out for Smite Infusion. Now, specifically, Radiation is very good for crowd control, so just like before, I'm going to show the against the Napalm because Radiation has a bonus against alloy. So we first have 12 damage, we use this. And now we go up to 256 because Radiation has a very hefty 75% bonus against alloy. And yes, you can see we're doing very good damage now. So the thing about this is Radiation isn't very good for normal gameplay, but it has excellent crowd control. So you can proc it on enemies and they'll fight each other. So that's what Radiation could be good for. Or if you have a weapon that normally would use fire or electricity, so if you wanted a corrosive weapon, you could mod for corrosive and then use Oberon. Now you have corrosive and radiation combined. Now with this, with my Tysis, you notice I have cold, corrosive, and gas. If I use this augment, let's get energy, not spawn new enemies. If I get energy and then if I use this now, I will also get radiation. So if I just proc it a few times, well, that's not actually fair since they're paused, but you can see I also got radiation. So for condition overload, specifically Smite Infusion and then Venom Dose for Saren are excellent choices because you have a free dual stat combination elemental that you can use, not to mention that this actually will just do higher damage and crowd control. But yeah, if I didn't make it obvious, Tysis is actually very good. You should use it. Now for Venom Dose, which is for Saren, you kind of have to make a compromise. Most people will use a maximum range build or just very high range for spore spreading because it does corrosive. But the benefit of Venom Dose is it already adds corrosive. So normally I'd have this build here, which is Regenerative Molt, but I'm now adding corrosive damage. So in addition to being able to still spread spores to enemies, you can now just simply add corrosive damage to your attacks, which is actually very significant if you think about it, because you're almost double dipping your corrosive procs. So first I'm going to show what this does with a normal Saren build with just normal pops, the normal spores I mean, and then try to pop them. So slowly their armor is being reduced, and I'm doing more and more and more damage. Now I don't have bonus corrosive or anything, so I'm just getting slash, impact, and puncture. Now their armor is removed. So now we're actually going to do this test again, but we're going to use this new augment. Now we're going to do both. We're going to tap it, get it on this enemy, and we're going to hold it. And now I gain 160% corrosive, and because the KhorCS has high status chance, look how quickly it removed armor and then killed them. And even worse for the Heavy Gunner. Heavy Gunner stands no chance at all. So I would actually highly recommend this for a Saren build, especially because you can just give all your allies corrosive damage, but also yourself now too. So you're not left out. Now for Shock Trooper, which is for Volt, it's kind of the least useful of them, in my opinion. I would say the best use for this is actually just using it for combining with corrosive, because you can gain, with this build right here, if I hold it down, I gain 209% electricity, which is great, but electricity just stuns enemies. It'd be more useful if I put a toxin on this KhorCS, and now I have corrosive damage, but a very large corrosive damage boost because I have that 209% base. So it's like more, it's normal mods are 90% electricity, so it's like almost double or more than double of a normal electric mod. So it's just a hefty damage increase to your corrosive weapon. So yeah, that was the changes to these augment mods. I hope you found this video useful, and thanks for watching.